The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters was originally broadcast on June 11th, 2024.
It's time now for Business Matters, brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce. And now, here's your host, the president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, Pam Toonpop. Good morning, Pam.
Hey, good morning, Gary. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Very good.
It's another beautiful day here in Maui Day.
You bet.
Well, so glad to have a bright and beautiful day for everybody here in Maui listening in. Thank you, Gary, for all you do for the show. I am Pam Toonpop, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, and we are pleased to welcome you to Business Matters. Today, we're going to have two wonderful guests. Tapani, Vuori, who is the vice chair of, he's involved in the committee working on the Maui Economic Recovery Commission and is working in the areas of economic development, I believe, but he is also Maui Ocean Center's general manager. And we're going to have Kit Okazaki, a State Farm insurance agent. And so we're pleased that Kit's going to join us and talk to us about what's going on in the insurance world and what are some of the things that we can do to help ourselves out and, you know, what we might be looking at in the next several years. But first, we're going to begin with Tapani. Let me introduce him. He is Maui Ocean Center's general manager and a visionary for the future of our oceans. He is charismatic. He's a multi-passionate man, and when he says something, he doesn't shy away from his word or a challenge. He lives the aquarium's mission of fostering understanding, of wonder and respect for Hawaii's marine life, and shares this message with everyone he encounters. You know, he grew up in Finland, where he formed a powerful connection with nature and the ocean, and it's a bond that he's carried throughout his life. As a young child, he got his diving license and has extraordinary stories to tell about that. And then as a young adult, he moved to the U.S. to attend college, starting at Brigham Young University in Utah and graduating from UCLA in 1987. He started working, gaining experience in an eclectic mix of industries, from luxury furniture sales to Japan animation, if you can imagine that. And eventually his work led him to Oahu, where he was living with his wife when he stumbled upon a job opening for a retail director at the Maui Ocean Center's gift shop. So he joined the retail team, came to Maui, joined the retail team, transformed the business, fixing existing problems and setting up the store for success. And he did such an amazing job that he eventually became permanent. And after 2 years at Maui Ocean Center, Vuori and his wife purchased a home and began their life officially on Maui. And then in the years that followed, he continued to work there and then later accepted the position as Maui Ocean Center's general manager. And he just had one request, which was to build on an on-property 501c3 to support conservation efforts further. And so through his efforts and vision, he became the founder and president of Maui Ocean Center Marine Institute as well, which serves to restore Hawaii's coral reefs and rehabilitate injured Hawaiian green sea turtles. So he continues to protect marine life from all angles and is deeply involved in our island community and very involved in so many different things. So I believe actually it is the vice president of the Ma'alaya Village Community Association that he's part of, but he is also part of the Maui Economic Recovery Commission and leading different angles there as well. So aloha, Tapani, and good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Pam. You're right. What a beautiful morning, and thank you for that short and concise introduction. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Well, you have a very long and wonderful bio, and the stories are amazing. I absolutely love it. And so it's great that I'm glad we could share some of it. I wish we could read the whole thing because for those who don't know you, I think many people would be fascinated by you, both in terms of the tremendous work you do now, but just the experiences you've had growing up as a child and to get you to where you are today. Just a really interesting and remarkable journey.
Yeah, life is amazing. It's really what we make out of it, and I feel really privileged to be able to call Maui home. So I consider myself very fortunate.
Me too. I've been blessed to live here over 41 years now, and just enjoyed every single day.
Yeah.
It's just such a welcoming and wonderful community. Well, one of the things, you and I have been working on the Maui Economic Recovery Commission with about 100 other people. It's been
Right.
just a wonderful journey of trying to bring people together in a very challenging time. And, one of the things I know is top of mind for you, and of course top of mind for us, is how are businesses doing and how are they faring at this time? And I know it's something that you've been working on and talking about, let's look at where the businesses are and look at a wellness check. What are some of the things that you're hearing, and what are some of the things that you're finding?
Well, I mean, look, the fire, that was a very traumatic experience, and, it really touched many of the lives here on Maui. Actually, I would say most of the lives or most of the people were impacted by it. In terms of business economy, I've been pretty clear from early on. Obviously, we needed to address the rescue and recovery efforts in line, and that needed to happen, expeditiously. And it's been a little bit heartbreaking to see the how long it's actually taken. And as a community, I think it's really an opportunity for us in many ways to really examine, how can we be better prepared for these types of emergencies. Because it seems like, we really were overwhelmed in so many ways. Also, our county and state and federal government, all of us really. And I think, to me, it's become real clear that we all need to find a way to work together and address these kinds of issues, collaboratively. With regards to the business itself, we really never at the Maui Ocean Center were really fully recovered from COVID. We were still below the pre-COVID numbers when the fire happened. And, of course, when the fire happened, that was traumatic in business-wise. I believe, on the day of the fire, we had almost 1,300 paying guests who came to the facility, visit Maui Ocean Center, and then when we organized the community meeting with the hotel GMs and business owners, because we were quite alarmed when we saw the messaging coming down from the state and county, where people were basically messaged that don't come to Maui. So things started really, as I'm sure everybody listening here this morning recalls, that people started losing their jobs and small business started going under. And I believe we had like 7,000 unemployment applications per week. And on the 22nd of August, the day before we had the meeting, we had 106 paid guests. So that was over a 95% decrease in business. We have since slowly recovered. I would say we are probably still about 34% below pre-COVID numbers. So obviously, we are not back into the healthy numbers in terms of business activity. So I would argue that, and I've been pretty clear about this from the beginning, that we need to also focus on economic recovery, because, we need to make sure that we have money circulating in our local economy. So we have a tool at our disposal to help ourselves, because eventually, as we have now experienced, this federal money and even state money, it doesn't stay around too long. And I mean, it has been helpful, of course, but we need to be able to take care of ourselves and our community. So that's kind of a short answer. Yep.
Yeah, well, it is a really important subject, and for the businesses listening and for the community listening, again, we're coming upon hurricane season again. So what we really need to do is make sure that we're always prepared. Have a home preparedness kit. Have a business preparedness kit. This was an extraordinary situation. And some people might say, well, what would that kit have done? Well, in some cases, it could have bought you some time. And we never know what kind of disaster we're going to have. But the kits really help. And, especially if you were getting evacuated, you could have the kits and have some comfort in your car and food while you're getting ready to get to the shelters and things. They really do help. And businesses, one of the biggest things we found was that both families and businesses were underinsured. And so this, and of course, we're going to see insurance costs go up. We're going to see a host of changes, which Kit will be addressing a little later on the show. But make sure your business and your home your family and your home and your contents inside your home are protected. And be ready. And then the messaging, as you point out, Tapani, is something that we saw during COVID as well. When the messaging was, don't come, it has, and it's known to have a ripple effect. It has a lot of people don't realize that big corporations who plan big trips, just that message from a high-ranking official, and a mayor or a governor can do that. That message says, hey, they can't bring their corporate event here because there are certain conditions under which, they want to be, they want to be cautious, and they need to understand the situation. And so they have exit clauses on big contracts, which we saw during COVID, and then we saw again with this message, and then a lot of mixed messaging. And still today, messaging where people will say, I saw this video on social media or that message on social media, and it sounds like the people of Maui really don't want us. And that's not true. I think what we're wanting is respectful guests and people who understand and are going to be considerate. And most people, that's all they want to do. They want to come here and support us and do things the right way. But there's still a lot of confusion around the messaging.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. We saw this early on, and we are actually traveling on the mainland. We've been there a few times now since the fire, and we really keep hearing this consistently that, should we come? You're not sure. We don't want to offend anyone, and the lack of messaging and then the mixed messaging, and so there was no clarity. So the purpose for that meeting back in August was really to create a unified, clear, powerful, single message that all of us could have. Hey, welcome to Maui. And then once people are Maui, then nobody needs to go to line. I actually never personally went to line until 3 weeks ago, I believe it was, with the FEMA tour as part of my responsibilities with the Economic Recovery Commission. And I specifically didn't want to go there because I wanted to make sure that I respect the area. And even after a lot of the cleanup work has been done, it was still pretty emotional experience for me personally. And I know several people who lost family members and homes there. And it certainly has impacted all of us. So I think also as I think about this, what happened, and and I shared this publicly as well, that we should not conflate the anger of 130 years that we have experienced. Our Kanaka community has gone through, with the water rights, land disposition, affordable housing. I mean, all these things. And however, we should address those issues as a community, because if we do not address them when the next disaster happens, it's not if, it's when. And, we end up in the same situation that our community gets angry, and, it's not really solutions driven when we start fighting against, we're basically one community and one family, in my opinion. So let's find the solutions and address these issues that we never really have addressed. So I think that would kind of create a solid foundation for us as a community to go forward and put this hurt and anger back and make sure that all the voices in our community are being heard and listened respectfully. And I remember back in December when HDA organized a meeting at MAC.
Yes.
There was about the plan, and I think you may have attended that as well. And
Yes.
there were actually many people from Lahaina, and I will probably remember it for the rest of my life. There was one gentleman who stood up finally, and he was quite angry, and he said, hey, I don't need another plan. I need to know how you can help me today. And that was in December, and to me, that really crystallized the importance of the sense of urgency, how we deal with these issues, and address them, expeditiously and with purpose. And we talk about affordable housing, that's the area that I'm now involved with at the Recovery Commission, and in 2021, Maui County, we actually commissioned a affordable housing study, and I believe we paid $300,000 for that.
Wow.
Well, we had done the same thing back in 2018 and 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And when I looked at those plans, they all had recommendations. And in common, all those three plans, they had 7 recommendations that were identical in all those three plans, but none of those recommendations have been instituted. So, and this similar experience has also happened with other areas like R1 reuse of wastewater, for example. We have a plan here in Maui County, but we have not done that. So when I then think about this process, excuse me, when I think about this, why is this not being done, and why are we not executing these plans if we have comprehensive plans? And I think we as a community really should have conversations and allocate resources to make sure that we can address these kinds of issues, because obviously we have gone through that exercise before. So the reason I'm sharing this, because to me, I firmly believe that if we do these things that we've discussed and analyzed and reported on, I believe we'll be in much better position as a community when the next disaster happens, because we have much more resiliency and safety and healthy communities. So anyway, sorry I kept going.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, housing is essential. We do, meaning the Maui Chamber of Commerce, we did a housing forum to unite the community on the housing crisis in 2017. We did a second one in October of 2019, just a few months before COVID hit. And the crisis still exists. And the beauty is, as you said, we have a plan. We have solutions. We had solutions for housing under the current situation. We had housing solutions within 2 weeks that could have been deployed, and temporary modular housing, but housing that can last for 20 years. So the kind of housing that could have also been deployed somewhere and moved if people wanted to keep that housing and make it their permanent home, or redeployed to help the homeless or those who are in need of some urgent medical housing or what have you. But it took us a while to really get to that point. And during that time, people who were already suffering so much, the unrest continues. And I think the critical thing is, as you said, I mean, first of all, we had a fire in 2018. And there was a plan there too. And we just didn't get to everything we needed to get to. We need to green that mountain right away, as everybody recognizes, and we need to get housing done. And we're going to rebuild, and we're going to rebuild better and differently and more resilient. But right now, they're still talking about people still in hotels that really need housing. And people want to be with their pets, and some of the condo hotels don't allow that. And so, I'm hearing that people are getting more rehomed with their pets, which is great. But you and I are very aligned. Housing has to come first. Even at the chamber, we talked about needing a resilient economy for our businesses, and we absolutely need that as well. But without housing, without our employees having stable housing for work, it's impossible to do. So we can't keep growing and not have a place to house people or bring our children.
I agree. And I think as a community, we should really examine these larger questions and look at how do we want our communities to feel and look like, and how do we like to live. And it's not about us necessarily; it's about our kids and the future generation. So I think our thinking really needs to shift, or we need to transform it from transactional to generational thinking. And I would argue that once we start looking everything through that lens, all of a sudden things start making sense and where the priorities should be. And, just an example, I've served on the advisory council on South Maui community plan, and I also looked at the West Maui community plan before the fire, of course. So the planning department works with the community. Unfortunately, what has happened is those plans are not fully incorporated into Maui Island Plan, which is the aggregate plan for the entire island of Maui. So my question again would be, why are we going through these exercises and not listening to local community, what type of community they would like to live in? And so I think we really need to look at the priorities, and obviously there needs to be overall aggregate vision and the plan and standards, but local communities should, in my opinion, have a say how their community will look like. And I would think that that is going to be one very important topic that, it already is coming up in line of how is the future of Lahaina going to be like.
Yeah.
So, and I think the Lahaina residents and the community there should have a very, very large voice how their community will look like. So,
absolutely, and what a lot of people are sharing too is some of the cultures that lived in that area, we didn't know the size of the population in that area, and that would be the Hispanic community in some cases. It was a plantation location. It was a plantation town with many different cultures there, including our host culture. But you have, when we talk about even protecting historical sites, you have Chinese historical sites right on Front Street, Japanese historical sites as well. The Filipino community's been such a big part of that area. So we have to remember also that, we need to come up with a plan that respects the diversity of our cultures as well, as we look to protect and preserve that culture and carry it forward. Be able to share that. That diversity and multi-ethnic blend is what makes Hawaii so beautiful and so special. And we've all adopted each other's cultures. And it's really an amazing place. And so you're right, community has a big part of it. We have community plans. There's so many processes in place. And we need to go back to those plans. And we also need to be, now we know, understanding climate change and how we build in resiliency plans, sustainability and resiliency plans into what we're doing. But, Tapani, we have so many things we could talk about, and we also have a second guest, which is going to talk a little bit about insurance. But, so I don't want to miss, I want to have you take a few moments to talk about your commitment to healthy marine ecosystems and beach cleanup.
Well, to me, it's really simple. We have one ocean. We are all connected. I'm sure many of the listeners, and maybe you, Pam, you saw in the news the FESPAC celebrations in Honolulu
Yes.
last week, where we had all the Pacific Rim people come here, and ocean really connects us, and really what makes Hawaii special in many ways, not only the people and the culture or the cultures, but it's really the ocean that we have surrounding us and that we are part of. This is really the connection in many ways, and if we don't take care of the ocean, or if we manage to destroy it or harm it, then what do we have? And why would anyone appreciate when they come here to visit Hawaii? Because the beauty of the ocean is no longer there. And when I talk with a lot of older folks, kupuna, and I've heard many stories where they have tears in their eyes, and they said, I remember, when I used to be able to go to the ocean and fish and support our family, and they said they don't want to go to the ocean anymore, and because there's nothing there. And in Ma'alaya Bay, we are located at the bay. Actually, in 1996, Stephen Dollar, environmental scientist, surveyed the entire coral reef ecosystem in the bay, and at that point he found it to be 75+% intact. And if we go further, at the beginning of the previous century, there were actually reports praising or extolling the beauty of Malaya Bay. It was world known for the beauty of the coral and the ocean underneath the ocean surface, or the marine ecosystem. And in 2006, State of Hawaii surveyed the entire state of Hawaii, and Malaya at that point was found to have 8% coral reef ecosystem. We are in the ocean every week. I love ocean, and I would say in Malaya Bay, it's probably less than that as of today. And when I talk to people who work with limu, for those listeners who may not know, is the Hawaiian word for seaweed. They pretty much say the same thing. Over 100 years ago, there used to be more than 125 different species of limu. As of today, maybe 12 or 15. So, this is the story that I see happening more and more. And personally, I'm quite concerned what will happen as we go into the peak summer season, and towards the end of the summer, mid to end August, with the ocean temperature. And my concern is if it rises too much, we will experience another major coral bleaching. Australia just came out of their summer, and Australian government, actually, they're not really known for their environmental credentials that much. I hope I'm not insulting anyone, but they actually made a public announcement that Great Barrier Reef had a catastrophic coral loss. And we went through this in 2015, and these events are happening more often. So this is happening under our watch. So I would like to challenge all of us. This is my personal challenge to myself, but also to our community. What are we going to do to make sure that the marine ecosystem is there for the future generations? Because personally, I don't want to stand in front of a young child when they ask me, Uncle, how come there's no more coral? How come there's no more limu in the ocean? While we had an opportunity to do something about it. And of course, economic impacts are there as well. And as your next guest probably may talk about a little bit what is happening in Florida, this is going to be happening more and more here in Hawaii as well. in terms of difficulties getting insurance coverage for our homes, because of the climate risk assessment that the insurance companies are making.
Yeah. Well, Tapani, he will definitely share a little bit about that. And thank you for the pledge and the work you're doing and asking people to make a commitment to how we can protect our coral reefs and our marine ecosystems. It's really important. I know there's so much more that you can share on this, and so what I'd like to do is ask if I can have you on again. Maybe we can have you on again next month, because there's so much more to share, and I know you're doing things with the school. But thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your leadership in trying early on to convene people together, to help unite in the message. I was there when you put the call forward. You had somebody start to draft something, again, to be taken apart, to be unearthed, as I did. We put something together to say, here's an idea. Let's as a community just start having this discussion. And I think we still need to have that discussion on messaging. But I appreciate your early efforts.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the talk show early in the morning, and thank you for your listeners, and be happy to come on again if you think it will add value to the conversation we're having.
Absolutely. You add value to every conversation. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pam. And you and listeners have a great, beautiful day today. Aloha.
You do the same. Good travels. Have a great travels and safe journey home. Well, so great to have Tapani on. If you haven't been to the Maui Ocean Center, you'll want to stop by. Many of you have visited before, but there's always new things to do and see. It's always a pleasant day and really amazing. Our next guest is somebody I've known for a very long time and a good friend. Many of you know him as well. It's Kit Okazaki. He has Kit Okazaki State Farm Insurance Agency on Maui. He is a graduate of Seabury Hall, Colorado College, and the University of Hawaii for his MBA. He has been working in insurance and financial services on Maui for 24 years, and he currently leads an amazing team of 10 insurance agents, and his agency is State Farm's top producer for business insurance, home insurance, and condo insurance here in Hawaii. So we're very glad to have Kit join us. Gary, is Kit on?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, while we reach out to Kit and bring Kit on, I do want to just touch upon a couple of things that Tapani touched upon as well. There's a lot of efforts going on in planning, and one of the key things that I really want to share, because I think it's so important for our community to understand our housing crisis. In our 2019 conference, we did something that's not really done typically, so we used a very low number as an annual interest rate, and that was to try and project housing out. When it comes to development and housing prices and fluctuating interest rates, there's so many variables that people don't usually try and estimate what housing prices will look like in the future, except that they can do that in reverse mortgages. It's kind of a leading area that's sort of unfolded, I don't know, over the last decade for sure. But so a challenge was put forward was, what would it look like? So we took that on at the chamber and came up with a projection that people sort of balked at, because they knew the interest rate was too low, meaning the prices would be higher than what we were projecting. But we purposely used a low interest rate so people didn't think we were trying to overinflate and use it as a scare tactic. And so we predicted back in 2019 that median home prices, that's the average between low sales and high sales, the median average home price sale would be looking at over $1 million in 2024. And as most know, it's over $1 million is the median home price. And we've been hovering, about 1.2 for a long time. And it's going to keep going up and down. But the point is, we reached that earlier than we expected. And then we projected, so at that time, about our audience, about a third said they would need a house by that period of time. When we asked if they would need a house 20 years later, so in 2040 arena, then people said almost everybody in the room had their hand up. When we asked if they need it for themselves, a child or a grandchild, or maybe even a great-grandchild, almost everybody had a hand up in the room. And we said by 2042, we predict a $2 million median home price. So with housing comes insurance. So it's my great pleasure to welcome Kit Okazaki of State Farm Insurance Agency, Kit Okazaki State Farm Insurance Agency in Makua Town. Good morning, Kit.
Hey, Pam. Morning.
Great to have you on the show. Where do we start with insurance? Everybody's worried about insurance, and I know that you and your amazing team of agents work tirelessly to help people, and we're going out right away to be on the front lines to help people who were impacted by the wildfires. Can you share a little bit about that early work that you did and kind of where you're at now?
Sure. Well, I mean, the early work for us was primarily initially just trying to communicate with people what the process does, and that, and the good news is that, we had, when it came to our clients, we had their back, and that we're going to be standing behind them throughout this ordeal. A really unfortunate set of events. I never thought that, this is something that I would see in my lifetime as an insurance agent here on Maui. But it was primarily communication and just, talking to people about what the next steps are. And State Farm had an incredible response. We brought out, I think, about 70 people, to assist and communicate with people, meet with people, and kind of walk them through the claims process and help them, with creating their inventory lists and, and all the things that are involved and quite frankly can be quite complicated in the claims process.
Yeah. No, well, that was some of the biggest things that, when you're devastated by a disaster, some of the biggest thing you're dealing with is it's just hard to even think about all of these things and what to do and how to do it and go about it. And so many people needed somebody like you folks, and you were right there in front, holding their hand, walking them through the process, telling them that you're there for them and they can count on you and your team. And I find that is some of the things that mean the most. When people reflect back on those early days, they'll talk about those who were there helping them the most and leading them through that time when they don't just know what to do next.
Right, because most people are it's very rare that people are filing claims on their homeowner's policy. I think our average is about one every 13 years or so. So, it's
wow.
A new thing, and it was a very scary time for everyone, of course, on the island, and of course, he was affected by the tragic fires.
And then not to know, or the documents aren't there anymore. So then to, have somebody help say, don't worry, we've got it. That was another big thing as people look for what they needed. Where
I know. I have.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, we do have a lot of people, that since the fires that have planned to create sort of, go bags and put their papers in a place where that they could grab them and leave. But when it comes to insurance paperwork, that is something that your agent or agency should be able to generate for you at any point in time. So, keeping a bunch of insurance documents with you in a place where you can, grab it and leave, it's not necessary. But the other items in the house probably more important. Important documents outside of insurance, but that's something that your insurance agency should be able to print out for you at any point in time. So less of a need to, to have those printed out and ready to go in the event of an emergency.
Yeah, good point. How can you feel our community is recovering, and what will our insurance be looking like as we move forward?
Sure. I mean, right now, the good news is, some of the people affected in Kula are, on their way towards rebuilding. I've talked to several clients that have put in their requests for permits already, that have architectural plans drawn up, which is fantastic. And then, of course, the other end of the spectrum out on the west side, unfortunately, I think with the scale of the cleanup and the infrastructure repairs or replacement that need to go in, we are unclear on the timeline there. But it is really really nice to see some action in the upcountry area happening and getting people back put back together and looking at starting to rebuild up in Kula.
Yeah.
Going forward, the insurance. I mean, we have a lot of we get a lot of questions about what insurance rates are going to look like going forward. And I think the insurance industry has really looked at this, and there are a lot of carriers that seem to be just kind of taking a bigger picture look at their exposure here in Hawaii. And we have heard of some carriers that it's tougher to get insurance. The underwriting guidelines are a little stricter now, and I think all carriers are just looking at it a little bit more. Like roof age is one of the first things that we're looking at when insuring a home, because a lot of things can happen to the home if the roof is not in good shape. So there's a lot of underwriting around what the roof looks like, and then just the general condition of the home. When we're looking at homes outside of the roof, we're just looking at that it was relatively well maintained, that there aren't any glaring liability issues like a deck or porch with no railing, a sliding glass door that that steps down a few feet without any stairs, things like that where it would be obvious potential for somebody to get injured there at the property. So those are some of the things that we're looking at as well on the underwriting side. And I think it's carrier by carrier, insurance carrier by carrier, like how much this is going to affect their underwriting. And so we do see some carriers that have been kind of making some adjustment and making some non-renewals, but I think for the most part, most of the carriers that we're operating here are still planning to be around, from what I hear. But it is getting a little tighter on the underwriting guidelines. So far as pricing goes, so we've heard a lot of challenges in the condo market, and I personally don't handle any of those the large association policies, like condo master insurance policies, but I've talked to some other agents that do, and they're having a lot of challenges and having to structure coverage with multiple carriers, which is driving the pricing up. For the individual homeowners policy, like for us, if we want to increase our rates, we've got to put in for rate filing with the Department of Insurance, and they have to approve it. And so, I think our last auto rate filing, we put in, I think, for like a 7% rate increase because of, the premiums that we were paying out were higher than, the claims we were paying out were higher than the premiums we're taking in. And so it took the Department of Insurance, I think about almost a year, I think, to approve that. So it is one of those things where, the insurance companies, if they do want to adjust rates, have to get approval from the Department of Insurance if you're an admitted carrier here. And the process is never a quick one. That's one of the challenges that we're seeing in California, where a lot of the carriers are exiting the market because the Department of Insurance is not allowing them to increase rates. And, with an insurance company, they've just, with Safe Harbor anyway, we priced it to pay out a little bit more than we take in claims. And so if we're not able to do that, it's just not sustainable for a long period of time. If you're paying out significantly more in claims than you are taking in a premium, at some point you disappear.
Yeah.
Right. So,
it's a declining business.
We do anticipate that there probably will be some rate increases in Maui, but probably, on our end, it's not a real significant number that we're looking at.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear it. I know it's something that's very concerning for everybody right now, just because it's so front and center in the news. And so people are worried about it. And of course, we are also seeing some things around condotels and condominiums and what's happening with both reserve studies in terms of repair and maintenance for big issues and HOA fees and what that means. And, so it's front and center for a lot of people. And like you said, I know you don't do a lot of the HOAs, but it's great to just kind of get a sense of where we're going. Um, Talk about, if you would, you've got just an amazing team of agents, and you've got a real standard for customer care and response. Can you talk a little bit about your agency for a minute, and how you've been serving and helping people and your team?
Sure, absolutely. So, our agency, of course, initially, the highest priority was just communicating with people, explaining the claims process with them, helping them get claims filed, occasionally helping them communicate, with claims or be sort of the middle person at times. So that was a big part of our role initially. But I've got a team of 10 of us in our country agency, and we all work together as one unit. And some of us are focused primarily on claims. Some of us are focused, primarily on auto insurance, fire insurance, communicating with mortgages, because they're oftentimes making the payment for people's home insurance. So those are some of the things that we're, the team's focused on a regular daily basis.
Yeah, and I love your team is always very collaborative. Sometimes all the suggestions they're really fabulous. They're given.
Oh, thanks, Pam. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it's just we're just trying to pick up the phone timely and respond to people's requests on a timely basis, and just deliver that level of service that we would want to have delivered to us and any other service industry type of policy or account.
Well, you've definitely amassed a great team, and even on issues where in some land development where it was a period of time where we weren't ready for insurance yet, but they remembered it, they calendared it, they called, they followed up, they said, hey, it's now this time, are you ready now? And I just think that kind of service is exactly what you said. It's the kind of service we'd all like to have, but it's gotten to a point where it's not the standard anymore, and it's really remarkable when you get that high level service when even you're not thinking about something. State Farm and the team up there is thinking about you, and they're reaching out just to check in, which I really love about your service and your team. Where do you think, with what's occurred, with some of the things that are going to take time to rebuild, how can people best think about insurance moving forward? How did they plan when it's going to take some time to rebuild? Is there anything they can do in advance to get ready? Or should we be setting aside some money to think about, rising housing costs and insurance costs? How do we help them prepare for the next wave?
Well, I think, one of the challenges right now is just, the uncertainty around when we're going to be ready to start the rebuild, right? There's so many different factors that come into play there, but I think the first step is to, if you've got original plans from your house that was damaged or burned down, to look at those, and if you don't have plans, to start the process of getting plans for the rebuild, right? So, looking and discussing with the architect, getting plans set and then really working on that so that when the time comes, you've got your plans ready and that you can, submit that for permit, and start the discussion with contractors now. I think it makes sense to do that. We may be a ways off, but starting that discussion with contractors and getting your plans ready, I think it's a great thing to be getting on top of during this period of time while we're waiting.
I agree, and it takes time. And I know, years ago there was a new thing called hurricane clips, and that was decades ago. It's not new. Just like in the last few years, hurricane clips have been around for a long time. But I remember there was a shift in building, and there was hurricane clips because of higher winds that we were starting to experience. You mentioned
right. I think 1996 that became part of the building code here. Is having clips or ties put in back in 96. So everything post 96 should have those.
Yeah, awesome. So I know it was when we look at some of our older plantation towns that were built before that. That's one of the things that they don't have. So I understand looking at roofing. Is there a place that people can go? Sometimes the insurance companies, if you have certain types of roofing, that it can lower your cost. Certain, different materials that maybe don't burn as much, or new standards that people should be looking at. Is there any place that people can go for? I'm sure they can talk to their architect for these kinds of recommendations as well. But are there discounts that State Farm and others typically offer if newer, maybe more fireproof or hurricane-proof mechanisms are put in place? There's discounts for things like that?
Well, construction, there is some slight adjustments in pricing based on the construction type, right? If you're a single wall construction home, which a lot of our 1950s and earlier homes are, versus a double wall construction, versus a masonry construction like a Scandio Hollow tile block home.
Yeah.
We do look at those all a little bit differently, especially on the hurricane side, right? So the masonry construction is going to be considered the strongest in the event of a hurricane, and the single wall constructed home are going to be probably considered the weakest in the event of a hurricane. And there are some pricing differences there. That's really not something that people can go out and change, right, at their home.
Right. Yeah.
And there are some, sidings, like if you got stucco siding or cement fiberboard siding and you've got a metal roof, that a house does. It's probably, in theory, a little more fire resistant than a home that is, redwood or cedar siding, tongue and groove, and a wood shake roof. So there are definitely things that you could do, and the roof is one of those things that it doesn't last forever in most cases. A metal roof or a tile roof would last longer than composite shingle or wood shake roof. And make some adjustments there to try and in the future for roof longevity. If I'm replacing my roof, I could look at replacing it with a roof that's gonna have potentially a longer longevity, like a metal roof, versus going back to like a tree-top composite shingle roof.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kit, for giving us ideas and for letting us know about what's going on in insurance, how your team helps, and the kind of work that you do to help post it, and what they can count on their insurance agent for. Really great to know. Appreciate having you on the show. And I appreciate everybody listening in today. I hope you learned something new and that you'll join us again next week, Tuesday, for Business Matters at 7:05. Aloha.